Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Life According to a Middle Schooler. Before we get into the podcast, I want to give a huge thanks to you guys for getting me to 100 listeners so quick. I also want to let you know that the structure of this podcast has changed. So now, instead of me boring you with facts every episode, this episode, it's going to be me and my brother. We're going to have a little bit more fun with it. And so, without further ado, my brother, Mitchell.
Hi, I'm Mitchell. I'm Clark's brother. I actually just left middle school, so I know what it's like to be a middle schooler, so I'll still be part of the Life According to a Middle Schooler family.
So, today we are going to talk about gaming, particularly video gaming, but instead of giving you our opinionated spiel, we're going to do more of separation from facts and misconceptions.
As we covered in the last episode, the world is changing a lot, and a lot of things have been happening in current events. And one of the biggest things is video games and technology. There are a lot of different stereotypes and stigmas related to the video gaming culture of kids, and we're here to cover a few of them and help people understand that maybe some of those stigmas aren't true, or maybe we're being labeled as people who play video games.
Okay, so I guess I'll start it. Straight into it. I play video games.
I do as well.
And I enjoy video games. I wouldn't call myself a hardcore gamer because that's different. But what I do want to say is how, if I just said hardcore gamer, what do you think of? I think a lot of what the media is saying right now, or what a lot of people misconceive in their heads, is that a gamer is, a 20-year-old overweight guy living in his mom's basement,
Never seen the light of day,
Exactly, with pizza boxes all around him, But that's not true. I mean, gaming, there are members of the gaming community that do live that lifestyle, but that's not necessarily true. I think there's a lot of situations, like we know people that play video games all the time. I have a friend who plays video games a lot, but he also makes lots of time to do exercise. He makes lots of time. He plays soccer, very, very good at soccer, very good at skiing. He spends a lot of time, away from video games, but he still does play video games a lot, and he still gets a good education. He's a very smart person. So I think separating that fact from that misconception is a really important thing to do.
And one thing I want to say as a disclaimer is that not everyone plays video games, so it might not be a thing that really concerns you at the moment, but I think it is good to know that there are a lot of different views of media and the world, different communities that see video gaming as a bad thing. And I'm not big into gaming culture. I don't play a lot. I leave a lot of time for other things, but there's definitely another side. And this tweet from a little while ago that actually went got out there, went viral. A woman posted, "My son has autism. He loves video games. He has been playing Spider-Man PS4 for the last month. He's completed it back to front. He said to me today he looks up to Spider-Man. Why? Because when he gets knocked down, he always gets up, just like me. Video games change lives." And I think what that woman said is just touches on it perfectly, that a lot of people see video games as a violence-inducing, really changing the minds of younger people. Yes, people are very more susceptible to influence when they're younger, but I think that is a very extreme stigma to place on the video gaming culture.
And I also think that if you take the first couple lines of that tweet where he says, "My son has autism, he loves video games," I think that the media don't want to stereotype the media, but I want to say the group of individuals who feel strongly that video games are extremely bad, and the people who are behind that misconception, I think that they're only recognizing the first three sentences where he says, "My son has autism, he loves video games, and he's been playing Spider-Man for the last month."
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of labeling about addiction, and I am definitely not here to make light of addiction. There is a lot of proof all over that addiction to social media, digital media, is very bad, and I am definitely not disagreeing with that. In many countries in Asia, I know in China, I think in South Korea, there are actually rehab facilities for people who are dealing with addiction to their devices. And yeah, so I'm definitely not trying to say that addiction to devices is not an issue, but I do think that people do really play that up to be more significant than it is, and that maybe playing video games with friends for half hour, maybe an hour a day, maybe that's more of a socializing thing than an addiction. And when a parent just wants to instantly jump to an addiction, that can definitely be frustrating for a kid.
Yeah, so actually what you said, Mitchell, was exactly what I wanted to talk about, because this summer I played video games pretty often. But the reason I did that is because that was pretty much my only interaction with my friends outside of school, because I hadn't seen them since March, and with the whole coronavirus pandemic, there wasn't a ton I could do. And I'm not going to say I played video games 6 hours a day. I barely played maybe 45 minutes a day. But it was really more of a social interaction than anything else. And I also want to bring up another something that was out there in the media. It was an 80-year-old man who actually he created like a blog or something, and he was saying that he played video games to increase his cognitive ability. He played like shooter games for fast reaction times. He played like, you know, puzzle games, and
Yeah.
there's all kinds of games out there that the categories can vary like immensely. But I think that, yeah, that's just another like instance where, even though it might not seem like a good thing, there are situations where it is helping people.
Yeah, that is a really good point, Clark. And before we make one quick stop, I just want to say that I think definitely what Clark touched on first is that with this quarantine situation, I think definitely seeing friends, especially for younger kids, we definitely need those social interactions. Especially much younger kids, maybe kindergartners, elementary schoolers who are trying to grow their brains. Their brains are still growing, and they need those social interactions to be be able to pick up on social cues and be a good member of society. And video games can definitely help with that. But we are going to take a quick break, real quick, and talk about our sponsor.
Real quick, I just want to give a huge thanks to Anchor for sponsoring this episode. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. I'm using it right now. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. Second of all, there's all kinds of creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will automatically distribute the podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and so many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. All you have to do is press a button. It's everything you need to make a podcast, all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome back to Life According to a Middle Schooler. On that short break, Mitchell and I were actually speaking about the coronavirus situation, where during quarantine, the amount of video gaming escalated and how it was such a social interaction. And Mitch wanted to say something about that. So, Mitch?
Yeah, so just let's even back up a little further. Maybe not even video games, and maybe just technology at all. There have been a lot of families that have had some situations they weren't able to be together because of this coronavirus. I was able to speak with my grandmother much more frequently than I would have been able to because of the coronavirus, both of us, using Zoom or FaceTime calls, and all of those are awesome. I think that being able to just have those interactions is perfect, and people see the video games as an addiction or as a crutch or